Every single year, thousands of people experience life-threatening symptoms and do nothing. They brush it off. They tell themselves it's just stress. They wait until morning. They assume it'll pass. And for so many of them, it doesn't. They never make it to the hospital in time. They never get the chance to say goodbye to their loved ones. They never even realize how close they were to the edge, until it's too late. Right now, at this very moment, someone is sitting at home, clutching their chest, convinced it's just indigestion. Someone else is gasping for air, thinking it's just the heat. Another person is feeling the worst headache of their life, unaware that a blood vessel in their brain is about to rupture. It happens every single day. The truth is, your body has ways of warning you, urgent, desperate signals that something is terribly wrong. These signs can mean the difference between life and death, between survival and tragedy. And yet, most people ignore them. So I need you to listen closely. I need you to focus, because the next few minutes might just save your life or the life of someone you love. Today, we're going to break down the 5 most urgent signs that your body is telling you to get to the hospital right now. I'm not talking about mild discomfort or everyday aches and pains. I'm talking about the kind of symptoms that demand immediate action. The kind that could mean a heart attack, a stroke, or even organ failure. The kind that, if ignored, could leave you unconscious before you even realize what's happening. This isn't about paranoia. It's about awareness. It's about knowing when your body is in crisis mode, when it's begging you to take action before it's too late. Because when that moment comes, you won't have time to second-guess yourself. So stay with me, pay close attention, and if you recognize any of these warning signs in yourself, in a family member, in a friend, do not wait. Call for help. Get to the hospital. And don't ever assume that it's nothing. Let's get started. You ever had a moment where something felt off? Maybe a strange sensation in your chest, a sudden wave of dizziness, or a headache that felt different from any headache you've ever had before. And then you shrugged it off. Maybe you told yourself, it's probably nothing. I'll be fine. But what if it wasn't nothing? What if the feeling was your body's way of screaming at you that something was wrong? What if that moment, that one decision to ignore it, was the difference between getting help in time or never getting help at all? That's what we're talking about today. Your body doesn't just break down overnight. It gives signals, warnings, little red flags that tell you something is seriously wrong. The problem is, most people don't recognize these warnings for what they are. They wait. They hesitate. And sometimes that hesitation is fatal. So today we're going deep. Not just a surface-level list of symptoms, but the why behind them. What's actually happening inside your body when you feel that crushing pain in your chest? Why does a sudden, severe headache sometimes mean nothing, but other times mean life or death? How can you tell the difference between something minor and something that requires immediate medical attention? By the time this is over, you're going to know exactly what to look for, exactly when to worry, and most importantly, exactly what to do if you or someone you love ever experiences these warning signs. Because hesitation kills. So let's not waste another second. The 5 most urgent signs your body is telling you to get to the hospital immediately, starting now. 1. Sudden severe chest pain. Imagine you're sitting at home, maybe watching TV or finishing up dinner, when suddenly you feel this uncomfortable pressure in your chest. It's not exactly painful at first, just a tightness, like someone pressing their palm against your sternum. You shift in your seat, take a deep breath, maybe rub at the spot, thinking maybe it's just indigestion. Maybe I ate too fast. Maybe I just need to relax. But then the pressure gets worse. It spreads up into your neck, down your left arm, maybe even into your back. You feel a wave of nausea, maybe a little lightheaded. Your breathing changes. It's subtle, but suddenly it feels like you can't quite get a full breath. And that's the moment when you need to act. Because this could be a heart attack. Most people imagine a heart attack as something sudden and violent, clutching the chest, gasping for air, collapsing to the floor. And sure, sometimes it happens that way. But often, it starts quietly. A little discomfort, a little tightness, a little something that feels off. And because it's not excruciating, because it doesn't feel like the dramatic scenes we've seen in movies, people ignore it. They wait. They convince themselves it's just stress. And waiting is what kills them. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your body when this occurs. Your heart is a pump, a powerful, complex machine that keeps blood flowing through your body every second of the day. But like any machine, it requires fuel, a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood delivered through the coronary arteries. When one of these arteries gets blocked, either by a clot or a buildup of plaque, the blood flow slows down or stops completely. Without oxygen, the heart muscle begins to die. And that's exactly what a heart attack is, the death of heart tissue. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not instant. It builds. The longer the artery stays blocked, the more damage occurs. And the more damage, the higher the risk of the heart failing completely. So what should you look out for? It's not always the dramatic, crushing pain we imagine. Sometimes it's more of a squeezing sensation, like a band tightening across the chest. Sometimes it's a dull ache that radiates to the arm, the jaw, the upper stomach. It might come with shortness of breath, dizziness, cold sweats. And here's the scariest part. It's not always severe. Some people feel mild discomfort for hours before realizing something is wrong. Some don't even feel pain at all. For women, symptoms can be different: more nausea, more fatigue, more of a flu-like feeling rather than sharp chest pain. And because of that, they wait even longer to get help. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, mid-50s, worked a desk job, relatively healthy. One night, he felt some discomfort in his chest. It wasn't intense, just a nagging pressure. He assumed it was heartburn, took some antacids, and went to bed. By morning, he felt fine, went to work like normal. But around lunchtime, it came back, stronger this time. Again, he ignored it. That night, his wife found him slumped over in his chair, unresponsive. He never made it to the hospital. When doctors examined him, they found that his heart attack had actually started the night before. It had been a slow, gradual process. If he had gone to the ER at the first sign of discomfort, he could have survived. But because he waited, the damage was too severe. His heart couldn't recover. This happens every single day, and it's completely preventable. The moment you feel any unexplained chest pain, pressure, tightness, or discomfort that doesn't go away within a few minutes, especially if it spreads to your arm, jaw, or back, you need to act immediately. Don't wait to see if it gets worse. Don't convince yourself it's just stress. Don't take a nap and hope it goes away. Because if it is a heart attack, every minute counts. Call 911. Don't drive yourself. An ambulance can start treatment on the way. If you're alone, call someone and let them know what's happening. And if you've been prescribed aspirin, chew one while waiting for help. It can help thin the blood and slow the clotting process. But whatever you do, don't ignore it. Because when it comes to a heart attack, hesitation could be the difference between life and death. 2. Sudden severe headache. You're going about your day when suddenly, out of nowhere, an excruciating headache hits you. Not a dull ache, not the kind of headache you get from stress or dehydration. This is different. It's sharp, intense, like a bolt of lightning exploding inside your skull. Your vision blurs for a second. You feel nauseous, maybe even dizzy. This isn't just a headache. This could be something far more dangerous. A sudden, severe headache, especially one that comes on instantly like a thunderclap, can be a sign of a stroke, aneurysm, or brain bleed. And in those situations, every second matters. A stroke happens when blood flow to part of the brain is blocked or when a blood vessel bursts. Brain cells start dying almost immediately. The longer you wait, the more permanent the damage. An aneurysm is when a blood vessel in the brain bulges and eventually bursts, causing massive internal bleeding. Many people don't even know they have an aneurysm until it's too late. Let's talk about a real case. A woman in her 40s, healthy, active, had a history of migraines. One night, she felt an unbearable headache unlike anything she'd ever experienced. She figured it was just another migraine, so she took painkillers and lay down in a dark room. A few hours later, her husband found her unconscious. By the time she got to the hospital, she had suffered a massive brain hemorrhage. She didn't survive. So how do you know if it's just a bad headache or something life-threatening? A migraine usually builds up gradually, can come with sensitivity to light or sound, and often improves with rest. But a brain bleed or aneurysm rupture, that headache will hit suddenly and feel like the worst pain of your life. It won't ease up. It might come with weakness on one side of the body, slurred speech, confusion, or trouble seeing. If you ever feel a headache that's sudden, explosive, or completely different from any headache you've had before, don't take chances. Get to a hospital immediately. A brain bleed can kill in minutes. There's no time to wait and see if it gets better. Your brain controls everything: your thoughts, your movements, your ability to speak. Protect it. Act fast. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. 3. Unexplained shortness of breath. You're sitting down doing nothing strenuous when suddenly you feel like you can't catch your breath. You inhale deeply, but it's not enough. It feels like you've just sprinted up a flight of stairs even though you're just sitting still. Maybe your chest feels tight. Maybe you feel dizzy, lightheaded, or like you might faint. This isn't normal. This isn't just being a little out of shape. This could be a medical emergency. Unexplained shortness of breath is a major warning sign for several life-threatening conditions. A heart attack can present without chest pain, especially in older adults. A pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that travels to your lungs, can cut off oxygen in an instant. And for those with asthma or COPD, a sudden breathing issue could mean their airways are dangerously closing up. Too many people mistake this symptom for anxiety. That's exactly what happened to a man in his 60s. He felt breathless on and off for a few weeks but assumed it was stress. He never had chest pain, just a strange, persistent feeling that he couldn't get enough air. One day, he collapsed at home. At the hospital, doctors discovered he had severe heart failure. His heart had been struggling for weeks, but he ignored the signs. Your heart and lungs are deeply connected. If your heart is failing, it won't pump enough oxygen-rich blood, leaving you gasping for air. If your lungs are blocked by a clot or fluid, you won't get the oxygen you need, making breathing feel impossible. So how do you know when to worry? If you feel sudden shortness of breath for no clear reason, if it happens even when you're resting, or if it's paired with dizziness, confusion, or chest discomfort, you need medical help immediately. Don't brush it off. Don't assume it's nothing. If your body is struggling to breathe, it's trying to tell you something is seriously wrong. Call 911 or get to an ER right away. 4. Sudden weakness or numbness. You reach for your coffee cup, but your hand doesn't cooperate. Your grip feels weak, almost as if your arm isn't listening to your brain's commands. Maybe your leg suddenly feels heavy, like it doesn't belong to you. Then your face feels strange, numb, drooping slightly. You try to say something, but the words don't come out right. This is not something to ignore. This is a stroke in progress. Every second counts. When a stroke happens, blood flow to the brain is interrupted, starving brain cells of oxygen. Without immediate treatment, parts of the brain start to die. And once they're gone, they don't come back. One man in his early 70s experienced this exact scenario. He felt numbness in his left arm while watching TV but thought he had just been sitting in an awkward position. Then he had trouble forming sentences. Still, he waited, assuming it would pass. By the time he finally sought help, hours had gone by. The stroke had done irreversible damage. He survived, but he lost much of his mobility and never regained full use of his left side. So how do you recognize a stroke before it's too late? Remember fast. Face drooping, ask the person to smile. Does one side droop? Arm weakness, can they lift both arms? Or does one drift downward? Speech difficulty, ask them to say a simple sentence. Do the words sound slurred or strange? Time to call 911. If you see any of these signs, don't hesitate. Strokes don't always come with pain. They can be silent, subtle, tricking you into thinking it's just fatigue or dizziness. But the sooner you act, the greater the chance of preventing permanent brain damage. If you or someone near you shows any sign of sudden weakness, numbness, or slurred speech, do not wait. Get emergency help immediately. Time lost is brain lost. 5. Confusion or sudden change in mental state. You're talking to a loved one, maybe a parent, a spouse, or a close friend, and something seems off. They're forgetting simple things like what day it is or where they put their keys. Maybe they're repeating themselves, asking the same question over and over. Or worse, they suddenly don't recognize you, even for just a moment. Your gut tells you something isn't right, and you're correct. Sudden confusion or a change in mental state isn't just old age or forgetfulness. It can be a life-threatening emergency. one of the most dangerous causes. Sepsis, a silent, deadly infection that spreads through the body, poisoning the blood, can start from something as small as a urinary tract infection or a tiny cut. In older adults, confusion is often the first sign, long before a fever or any other obvious symptoms. And if sepsis isn't treated immediately, it can lead to organ failure and death. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 78-year-old woman who was perfectly fine one evening. By the next morning, she was disoriented, couldn't form clear sentences, and seemed completely lost in her own home. Her family thought maybe she was just tired or dehydrated. Hours later, she collapsed. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed her with severe sepsis. Her body was already shutting down. She survived, but only because they got her help just in time. Confusion can also be a warning sign of a stroke, low oxygen levels, or even organ failure. If the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, whether from a heart problem, a lung issue, or something like liver or kidney failure, it will start to shut down, and confusion is often the first signal. So here's what you need to know. If someone suddenly seems confused, lost, or just not themselves, do not ignore it. If they're struggling to focus, mixing up words, or acting strangely for no clear reason, get medical help immediately. Your brain is your body's command center. If it starts acting differently out of nowhere, something serious could be happening. Don't assume it's harmless. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, get it checked. It could mean the difference between life and death. When it comes to medical emergencies, seconds matter. That's why we reached out to top doctors, ER nurses, and medical experts to get their final thoughts on these warning signs, because the truth is, the signs we've talked about today are just the beginning. Dr. Patel, an emergency room physician, has seen it all. He tells us people ignore symptoms all the time. They think, oh, I'll wait and see if it gets worse. But by the time they come in, it's often too late. If I could tell people one thing, it's this: don't wait. If something feels off, if your body is telling you something is wrong, listen to it. Nurse Jamie, who has worked in ER trauma units for over a decade, shares a heartbreaking story. I remember a patient who came in with mild chest pain. He almost didn't come at all. He figured it was just indigestion. By the time we ran tests, we realized he had already had a massive heart attack. He survived, but his heart was permanently damaged. If he had come in earlier, his outcome could have been so much better. And it's not just the big, dramatic symptoms we've discussed. Dr. Lee, a neurologist, explains a lot of stroke patients don't have what people think of as classic symptoms. Some just feel dizzy. Some just have a little trouble finding the right words. And too many people brush it off. The brain doesn't repair itself the way other organs do. Once that damage is done, it's done. If you notice anything unusual, get help. The most frustrating part? Many of these conditions are treatable if caught in time. That's why ER professionals want you to know mild pain can still be serious. A dull chest ache, a tiny headache, a little dizziness, it all adds up. Symptoms don't always come all at once. A stroke might start with just confusion. A heart attack might start with nausea. Waiting to see can cost you your life. The worst thing that happens if you go to the hospital and it's nothing? You get peace of mind. The worst thing that happens if you don't go? You might not get a second chance. And if you're still unsure? ER nurses say if you're questioning whether to go to the hospital, that means you should probably go. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you or someone you love ever experienced any of these warning signs? What happened? If you have a story, share it in the comments. It could save someone's life. If you or someone you know has ever ignored a warning sign and it turned out to be serious, share your story in the comments. Your experience could help others recognize a life-threatening symptom before it's too late. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people find this important information. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest health videos. Most importantly, stay aware. Listen to your body. Take action when something doesn't feel right. Your health and your life depend on it.